Hello and welcome to my January 2025 budget. This marks about a year that I've been doing my budgets here on YouTube. And during that time, I have learned so much about budgeting, and it has helped us save up over $40,000 towards paying off our new roof and also paying down our debts and saving a little bit for retirement. If you have never budgeted before, then January is obviously a very great time to start. And this year I'm using a brand new spreadsheet. I will be offering it for free until the end of January. So for anyone who's interested in trying out a new budget spreadsheet, if you're watching this before the end of January 2025, then there will be a link in the description where you can download it for free. It is a Google Sheets, and all you have to do is go to File and make a copy so that you have access to the budget spreadsheet, and you can use it absolutely free. This is my first time using this spreadsheet here on YouTube, so there may be a little bit of issues with how it looks on the screen for now, but hopefully we'll work through them throughout the year as we continue to use this in the months to come. I have been using this spreadsheet for a few months now just to work out any of the bugs, and it has been working really well for me. So hopefully it works well for you as well. So I'm going to give a little bit of an overview on it, and then we'll go right into the budget. So first of all, on this new spreadsheet, I have a page for the inputs that you're going to put in for every single month. So all of your income, your savings, your debt, your expenses, and your sinking funds. You can also use the sinking funds category as more of like fixed expenses if that's how you choose to use it. But for me, I like to stock up my sinking funds with like a set amount of money every month and then just spend freely from them. And there's a separate section on each budget page where you can enter in your spending. And that will come out of the sinking funds category. But if you don't want to treat them as sinking funds and you just want to set spending for each category, you can do that as well. And I'll show you how. So this month is going to be the first time that I'm budgeting with my gross budget. So this will be my entire paycheck, and then the taxes and the retirement contributions will be shown on this budget. But for my husband's income, it's still just going to be what hits our bank account, which will not be his full paycheck. It'll be minus his retirement contributions, minus his taxes, and minus what he keeps for his own personal spending. So starting here on the inputs, we have my paycheck, my husband's paycheck, the interest we might receive, any credit card rewards that we may redeem, any refunds we get, which is usually just tax refunds, and any other income that comes in, which we usually don't expect anything, but just in case, there's an extra category for that. And next we have our savings. We like to put this as our second goal because we kind of pay ourselves first. We want to contribute to our savings before we do any of our spending. So here I have my 403B, which is my retirement account through my workplace, my daughter's 529, my Acorns account, which is my after-tax brokerage that I contribute to just a little bit every year, my husband's 2024 Roth IRA, which we have not fully funded, but we're very close, and then his 2025 Roth IRA. Then we move on to our debts. We have our mortgage, the truck loan, my retirement account loan, and my husband's student loans. After our debts, we have our fixed expenses, which is, you'll see the amount of taxes that will come out of my paycheck. I put these into fixed expenses. And then life insurance also comes out of my paycheck. Car insurance, which we pay every single month, is usually a fixed amount, so that's why it's here in expenses. I think that if we paid it every 6 months, I would probably have a sinking fund for car insurance, but because we pay it every month, it just goes into fixed expenses. My car insurance company doesn't charge me extra for paying it every month. So, and I don't get a savings for paying it all at once. So it's our fixed expenses. And then we also have our utilities, which is just electricity, the internet, and daycare for my daughter, and my subscription to Acorns. We don't have any other fixed expenses than that. We don't pay for any other subscriptions. And then my sinking funds, this is basically our variable expenses throughout the year. Home, groceries, car and gas, pets. I have 2 rabbits. We pay for their expenses out of that. Baby, this is anything for my daughter. Phone, so we pay for our phone once a year. So that's why I have a sinking fund for that instead of paying for it monthly. If I had paid for it monthly, it would be in the fixed expenses. Health, gifts and donations, clothing and personal, travel and entertainment, restaurants, miscellaneous. So anything that doesn't fall into that category, or if something weird comes up, but usually this is where I throw anything that's a little bit extra in my budget, like extra change, just so that I can have a zero-based budget. And then this year, new, we have the DCFSA. This is the Dependent Care, what does the F stand for? Oh, flexible. The Dependent Care Flexible Spending Account, which I will be contributing to from my paycheck pre-tax, and then we'll be able to spend from this for my daughter's daycare. And then our emergency fund. So I keep this in sinking funds instead of savings, because savings is kind of for things that you put in and you don't take out during the year. Now, your emergency fund you shouldn't be spending from throughout the year, but in case an emergency comes up, I like to keep this in sinking funds, because also the sinking funds category will tell me how much is in each of these accounts, and then if there's any spending from those accounts. So I don't have that for savings. Savings is just you put it in and it's like set it and forget it. But the sinking funds, you have the option of spending from those accounts. And so that's why the emergency fund is in there, because we may be contributing to it, but we may also in an emergency need to spend from it. And so it's just easier to keep track of the spending from these accounts when they're in sinking funds. And then I have the new roof on here, even though if you've seen, I think my November budget, I finished contributing to the new roof fund, but I'm going to keep it here in the 2025 budget because we will have to spend from it this year. When we pay off the roof in April, I think we're going to pay it off in March. So I want to have that on here so it's not just like all of a sudden $44,000 disappears from my budget. And other is just for any other savings that we're not putting into any of the sinking funds or the emergency fund, but it's also just not my miscellaneous category. I may have too many categories here, but it's just what works for my family. So now I'm going to go through, I also have this annual summary page, and you'll see, I'll show you after I fill out the January budget how this begins to populate. You'll just see the budgeted amounts because we haven't done any spending or anything in January because it's still December. So now, starting with my January monthly budget, over here you'll see how much we have to budget and how much we have left to spend. So this will get populated based off of income, will go into the left to budget. As we allocate the income to the savings and the expenses and everything, this will go back to zero. And then when we begin getting income for the month, you'll see what's left to spend, and then we'll be spending it by entering it into these transaction categories down here. I'll fill out my budget now, and then you'll see about halfway through January how it works as we're adding to the budget, and then at the end how we close it out. So let's start with our income. For my paycheck, have I mentioned it? I have not mentioned yet. I think I put it in my daily spending log, which has not come out yet, that I am expecting a raise in January. I'm actually expecting 2 raises in January. One is my merit raise, which I get every year, and that's about a 5% raise, just over 5% that I'll be getting starting, I think it starts December 30th. And then the other raise starts after the first pay cycle in January, so it will be like the second week of January. And this raise is across my whole company. Everyone is getting a $1,500 annual raise because they've decided to get rid of the waiver that they give out when people don't use the health insurance. And so everyone who didn't enroll in health insurance used to get a waiver. They used to get paid for not enrolling in health insurance. But this year they've removed that waiver, and also the health insurance premiums for everyone who is getting health insurance went up, I think, pretty significantly. It was like over 20% or something that those went up. And so my company decided to give everyone a raise to help cover the cost of those premiums and for the people who were waiving it. So that's an extra $1,500 a year that we're getting as a raise in like the second week of January. So my paychecks are expected to be different. And I am expecting them to be $5,172.77 for the first one, and $5,230.46 for the second one. Now, I don't know if this is going to be exact, but this was just me taking my annual salary and dividing it by 26 to get those numbers, because this is before tax. These are my before tax numbers. And then for my husband's paychecks, he's not expecting a raise until sometime maybe in January, so it would hit after the end of January. So we're expecting his paychecks to be exactly the same as they have been in December. And this will be just his take-home pay that hits our joint account, $4,607.91 for both of his paychecks. And then interest, I'm just going to fill this out now because usually I wait until the end to make it zero, but I've already done these calculations. It's going to be $17.61 as just a very rough estimate. This is an underestimate of what we are going to be getting for interest in our high yield savings account, because we have, I think, almost $50,000 in there saved up as our emergency fund and our roof savings fund. This is an underestimate, but it's still a pretty decent amount, and this is just going to be so that our budget is zero at the end, and you'll see that. So next we have our savings, and I'm expecting to contribute 4% to my my 403B, which is what my company matches. So I'm just gonna enter in a formula that my 403b equals my budgeted income times 0.04%. So that's going to be probably $416.13. And then my daughter's 529, we contribute $415 a month. We're trying to hit the $5,000 goal again. This time, all of it contributed to our state 529, so that we don't have the issue that we had this year with that. And then for my Acorns account, I just contribute $5 a month, and then there's a roundup of usually $5 a month as well. So I budget $10 contributed, but sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And then for my husband's 2024 Roth IRA, because we haven't finalized the contributions this year, I'm not sure how much we need to contribute, but I think it's going to be about $800 to max that out to hit $7,000 for 2024, which is the max that you can contribute. So $800 there. And then for 2025, I think the max is again $7,000. It might be $7,500. I'll have to look, but we are planning to contribute $585 to that. I think if we were to contribute every month like the same amount, it's something like, it's not a nice round number, so I'm going to contribute nice round number $585 every month until the end, when I may need to change that up to get the exact amount. So as you can see up here with my donut chart, I've populated everything. 100% of my income is going to savings for now, but that is going to change. So we're moving on to taxes. I have absolutely no idea what my taxes are going to be with my new income and with contributing to the DCFSA, which is going to reduce my taxable income. Last year, my taxes were about 27.9%, but I don't know if that's what they will be this year, because my income is going up by, I think, about $7,000, but the taxable income, it should be about the same actually, because my taxable income is going to drop by $5,000. So should be about the same in taxes this year. We'll see. We'll see with the first paycheck, and then it'll change again with the second paycheck. But for now, we're going to estimate $2,902.50 in taxes for the month of January. And then life insurance, I think it's going to be $344 each paycheck, but I'm not completely sure because it's estimated, it's an estimate now based off of what they think that my salary is going to be. They didn't know when they did the benefits, when I signed up for benefits, so it might be more than this. And then car insurance, we are actually getting a dividend back from our car insurance company in January. So typically this is $156.98, and it's going up starting in February. But for January, after that dividend, I think it's going to be about $85. We'll see on January 1st exactly what it comes out to be. And then our utilities, I'm budgeting $184. For now, it's not changing. And then internet is $29.99. Daycare is a little bit questionable. So we pay $300 every Monday for daycare, but in January, our daycare lady is going on vacation for 3 weeks, and I'm not sure if we're going to have to pay for any of those 3 weeks. I think she gets 2 weeks of paid vacation, so I think we're going to pay for 3 Mondays in January, even though she's only going to go to daycare for 1 week in January. So I'm going to budget $900, but I don't know if it's going to be more or less than that. It shouldn't be more, but it might be less than that. And then for Acorns, it's a $1 subscription. So now you can see that 35% of our income is going to savings and 65% is going to our fixed expenses. But a big portion of that is taxes. So it's not actually useful to look at this donut chart until we've finished everything. So moving on to our debts. If you've seen my goals video, you know that we're going to start trying to pay extra towards our debts this year. Not our mortgage, that's $2,675 every month, but towards our truck. So we pay $311.07, and we'll be paying that twice this month. And then we're trying to pay a little bit extra, and I'm going to budget $2,500 extra towards the truck payment. We'll see if that works out. Hopefully we can contribute a little bit more if we don't have to pay quite so much for daycare, or if we don't need to contribute quite so much to the 2024 Roth. And then my retirement account loan, we are still paying that. We're still paying just the minimum on that. Every paycheck, $236.22. I'll be paid twice, so that hasn't changed. And then my husband's student loans, we're still paying the minimum, $382 on that. So that's all of our debts. As you can see, those, because of that extra payment, really affects our spending. It's about half of our income right now is going towards debt. And so finally, we have our sinking funds. These, I contribute about the same every month. It depends on how low they're getting, whether or not I'm going to contribute extra to them. I have these starting balances in here. These are just tentative because we haven't finished all of our December spending. They're more or less accurate, but if we do a little bit more like gift spending, that will go down, or we're definitely going to probably buy more groceries and maybe more gas. So these you will have to manually enter. If this is your first time starting a budget, you may start them all at 0. You may start them all at whatever amount that you want to, and then budget to add more throughout January. But we like to roll our sinking funds over from year to year. And actually, I moved my miscellaneous fund, everything that was in there, which was like $90 some, I moved all of that up to the health sinking fund, because the health sinking fund was probably going to end negative at the end of the year, and I didn't want it to start negative, and I didn't have need for the miscellaneous fund, so I rolled it all into health. And you'll see that in my budget recap of December when I finalize December. So for home, I plan on contributing $900. This is for any kind of home maintenance, usually not any kind of like decorations or like appliances or anything. It's almost strictly for home maintenance because we usually have a lot of things that break. Owning a home is pretty expensive when it comes to upkeep and management and stuff. And it's recommended that you save about, I think it's either 1% or 5% of your home's value every single year on expenses. We seem to blow through our home maintenance budget a lot. And like this year, we are expecting to have to fix our pool because there's a leak in like the pump line or something. So that will probably come out of the home sinking fund and also any other additional savings that we may have. We don't know how much that's going to cost, so we have not set up a budget for that yet, and have not started saving specifically for that. So for groceries, we budget about $350 because we're pretty variable with our grocery spending. Sometimes we buy like a big bulk order, and then other times we just pick up a few things. So it's nice to have our grocery budget in the sinking funds for that reason. But if you're someone who has a pretty set budget every month, then you may not need to use sinking funds for that. But that's just what works best for our family. And then for car and gas, we are planning to budget $150. And that's mostly gas for my car, and then any kind of maintenance that I may need, typically an oil change once or twice a year. My husband's car gets free oil changes at the dealership he bought it at, and he has decided to pay for his own gas from his own spending. And then for pets, we have 2 rabbits, and we're planning on budgeting $50 a month for them. We typically buy them food, the pellet food, every other month, and then the hay and the litter that we buy for them twice a year. And so it's nice to have the sinking fund for that because their expenses are also variable. They also have their vet appointments coming up this month. So for pets, we have about $440 in there, and that should cover their vet appointment in the new year, and then hopefully anything else that they may need. So moving on to baby, I'm going to contribute $30 to her sinking fund. We use this mostly for buying her new clothes when she grows out of them, and if there's anything she absolutely needs for daycare. Last year we used it a lot for both her hospital bills and her nursery. So because we used it for all of those other things last year, we don't really have very much left in there, and I actually ended up contributing more to her fund than I had originally intended because the hospital bills were so much higher than I expected. I thought that the final bill came in in January, but then we got like another one in the middle of summer, so we ended up definitely spending through her budget for that reason. But she doesn't really need very many things. She gets some hand-me-downs from her cousins who are a few years older than her in terms of toys, and then we buy all of her clothes from the thrift store. We also have never had to buy her formula, or we bought very little diapers for her. She's needed some for daycare, but mostly she's been in cloth diapers, and so that was an upfront cost of a couple $100, and then we've never again had to buy diapers. So that's been really nice. Saved us a lot of money. I definitely recommend cloth diapering if you're having a baby. And then for phone, we pay this annually, so I budget $55 per month. My husband has the unlimited plan on Mint Mobile, and so it's like $30 a month plus taxes and fees. And then mine is the 5 gig plan, and that's $15 a month plus taxes and fees. And so I think last year we were budgeting just $45 a month, but with all of the taxes and fees, it ended up being like maybe $100 more than we were expecting. So this year we're budgeting $55 a month to cover the phone bill for the year. And now for health, we're just going to budget $10. I'm really not sure what to do with the health budget this year because, so I'm not using the FSA this year. This year we're going to have an HSA, and my husband's workplace contributes to it every month, but we don't max it out. So we may decide to max it out. And I know with the HSA, you don't have to spend it all in a year, obviously. It rolls over and you can invest it. So we may just potentially save up all of our receipts for health spending, and then at some time in the future, after our investment in our HSA has grown, we will get those reimbursed. So the health spending may be out of pocket this year. It also may come from the HSA. I haven't really figured it all out yet. And this year, we actually ended up spending a lot more on health than I had budgeted for, not only with all of the doctor bills that came in at the end of last year, but because we have a high deductible plan, every time that we had to take our daughter to the doctors, which she's had to go, I think, 3 or 4 times in the past couple of months, and that's a couple $100 every time she goes. So because it's all out of pocket, no health insurance coverage for that, because we haven't hit our deductible, which is something like $13,000. So health costs are very expensive with a high deductible plan. So getting the HSA is nice, but I guess it may work out better because the biweekly costs of the health insurance plan at my workplace is a couple $100 out of every paycheck. And so my husband, with his high deductible plan, his workplace actually pays the premiums, so he doesn't have to pay every paycheck for health insurance. Plus they give him the HSA, so it saves us a lot of money if we don't have any medical expenses. It saves a lot of money if we don't have any medical expenses. But anytime we do have medical expenses, it's significantly more money than if we were with my workplace health insurance plan, which has like a $10 copay or something. But for now, we're sticking with the high deductible plan and the HSA. Now, moving on to gifts and donations. This is for birthdays, Christmases, anytime that we have to buy gifts for other people. I contribute $50 a month. We typically don't have very many gifts that we need to buy. Well, we have a lot of nieces and nephews. I think there's 6 total. So that's 6 birthdays and 6 Christmas gifts that we have to buy throughout the year, typically, depending on if we go to the nieces and nephews' birthday parties. And we could also send them cash or whatever. But $50 a month, that should more than cover any gift expenses that we have, because typically my husband and I don't buy each other very much. And if I bought him anything, that would come out of this gifts and donations budget. His would come out of his own personal spending, because I do all of my personal budgeting on this family spreadsheet also. For clothing and personal, I hardly ever buy anything from this category, so I give myself just $5 a month. As you can see, there's almost $70 in there, because that was $70 that I haven't spent from last year that rolled in. And I think we're doing probably another no spend, no buy, low buy year this year. So there's I probably won't do much spending from clothing and personal. Travel and entertainment, similar story. I just contribute $5 because we don't do much traveling. I think that if we plan a trip, then we'll up this budget, obviously, because we don't want to, go into debt to take a vacation. But we have nothing planned right now, and we may do like small trips that I think that this $450 that's in there will definitely cover any small trips that we may want to do. And then for restaurants, I budget $20 a month. We hardly ever go to restaurants, especially last year with our low spend year, even though I kept contributing. So we have over $300 in there for restaurants. I budget $20 a month because if we were to go out every other month, that would be probably $40 for the two of us, at least. So the budget is such that we could go out like every other month, but we hardly ever get food or takeout or anything. I mentioned that we may start going to a restaurant just to see how my daughter does. She's over a year old now, so she'll be able to sit up and eat the food at a restaurant, most likely. So we may do that just to give her that experience, but it's not something that we typically do on a regular basis at all. We like to cook at home, and it saves us a lot of money. For miscellaneous, I'm not budgeting anything for that category. That's really just anything that doesn't fit into any of my other funds, which is rarely ever happens. It did not happen at all last year because I have so many funds now. And then the new thing in my sinking funds list is the DCFSA, and that will come out with every single one of my paychecks for a total of $5,000 a year. So I'm guessing that it's going to be $416.67 coming out in January for my two paychecks. But this is my first time with the DCFSA, so I'm not sure exactly how much will come out. But that'll be fine. If it's a little bit different, then we'll know moving forward exactly how much it's going to be. And I think it only comes out twice a month. So the 2 months that we get a 3 paycheck month, it's not going to come out those months. So actually it's the $5,000 divided by 24 times 2. So the $5,000 divided by 12 gets us the amount that we're going to need per month in the DCFSA. And then I think that is everything. As you can see, left to budget is 0, left to spend is 0 because we haven't gotten any income yet. And looking at our budget graph that's finalized, we are expecting to pay 44% in debt, 27% to our fixed expenses, 13.6% to our sinking funds, and 14.8% to savings. So that's pretty good. We are really focusing on debt payoff this year, and this debt includes our minimum payments plus any extra that we're doing. So it makes sense that it's a pretty high percentage of our income. So that is my January budget. I hope this inspires you to get started on your January budget as well. And if you need a new budget spreadsheet and you're watching this before the end of January, then you'll be able to download mine in the link in the description. If you're interested in watching more of my family's journey, then please hit subscribe because I would love to have you follow along. Thank you for being here.